Hello everyone, welcome to Jargus Ranger Reviews, because I cannot think of a better name. What this show will be is, I will simply be doing a vloggish review of the most recent episode of Power Rangers. However, I usually won't have these up till at least a couple days after the episode airs, because generally I don't get an opportunity to see them right away. But also, on the other half of the screen, you'll also be seeing footage of a Power Rangers video game. Now that's it for the show. Now a quick introduction for me. For those who are new to this channel, I am a Let's Player, which means I ruin a game by putting my voice on top of it. And for my regular viewers, you need not to fear this overtaking my regular projects, as this will be a once a week thing. Usually will take no more than a day to do, and I usually have a backlog of my LP videos anyway to begin with. So now with all these introductions out of the way, let's get started with start out the show with the first episode of Megaforce, Mega Mission. This episode, to make it sound quite simple, is freaking amazing. It went far above and beyond what was expected for the start of the season. Because, for a quick bit of background for those who don't know, this is to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the franchise. So the first scene we see is pretty much taken straight out from the Great War scene at the beginning of Gokaiger. But quickly cuts to our eventual Red Ranger on the bus. I found it kind of funny just how emotional they made it, just him walking to school. But that's just me. Anyway, it slowly introduces our 5 Rangers as well as our enemies for this season. And I don't think they named who these aliens were. Anyway, all of them are throwbacks to the Mighty Morphin era. Yeah, the Red Ranger, I can't remember any of the Rangers' names yet. I haven't done a second watch of this episode yet. He's like a mix between Jason and Tommy, because he's the new one in town, always training, but he also has the discipline that Jason has. So that was a good touch already. And we have a throwback to both the first season and Dino Thunder with the Blue Ranger, because he's like a mix between Billy and Ethan. He pops out like a bunch of semi-techno-babblish stuff, but he's also not afraid to say what's on his mind. So, mix between the two, because Billy was kind of cowardly at first, but not Ethan. Anyway, each one of the Rangers are pretty much like a modern version of, well, the original counterparts from the first season. So that's off to a good start right there. I also like that little way how they were talking about insects and humans surviving at the beginning of the episode. And it switched to our invaders, well, using that analogy against them when they attacked. And the way their command center is set up is pretty neat. It's just like one small chamber. And it's a really nice way that how they reused the assets from Ghost Sager. Master Head's now become a Zordon-like figure that's speaking. And he sounds a lot like Zordon, but so is his own identity. But instead of Alpha, we have a robot that looks like Wally, except he has somewhat of a bumbly Alpha voice. So again, plenty of great nods to the first season already. Of course, then its theme song. Yeah, it's sort of remixed and heavily reuses a lot from the Samurai theme, mostly just replacing parts of it with Megaforce and such. But it works and stands out on its own a whole lot, actually. It actually has a bit of a Zeo-like thing of going up to the next level. And also in that command center is very well put together, because on the sides it has the ranger keys from Gokaiger. And it's explained that those were left behind of the rangers that came before. Now, I did not catch a glimpse of any of the samurai forms at all. So maybe either they weren't shown yet, or I didn't look close enough. But the selection seems a lot more limited, probably because there's 15 less years of rangers in the Sentai. But that's fine, that's fine. I mean, I wouldn't expect to have all 200 there. And the way the rangers are introduced to each other is exactly how Zordon did. He describes each of the rangers' main personality traits that were considered, and it shows off where they're getting their power from and their form very quick. So that's a perfect throwback. But adding more to that was how they encountered Tenso, which is the first part of Ghost Sager's title name. He was the Alpha robot. He's actually had an interaction with the new Blue Ranger that was pretty similar to how when Billy first saw him in Day of the Dumpster. Actually, a whole lot of this episode is just a huge throwback. You can even put it back in a high school setting, and the teacher seems not likely to be too much of an impact. Just there to get the episode started. Much like how Miss Alphabet was in the 4 seasons of the show she was in back in the day. But more importantly, the first fight scene was very well done. I'd say even better than the very first episode of Power Rangers. It started out similar to Mighty Morphin, where they didn't know how to use their powers and they just tried attacking on their own. It was pretty clever with the Pink Ranger to just blind the foot soldiers using her camera, till finally they figured out how to morph. In which case, it was a very well done fight scene. I could tell some of it from what I remember being reused from Gosager, but it was kind of edited pretty well where it seemed new to me. And even better so than Samurai, the theme song really fit with the action. So it was off to a great start so far, and it ended with Zordon explaining that they now have new responsibilities and such. Just, not Zordon, but Gosei. Yeah, that's what they call the Zordon figure. Also, another detail is that he actually said that Zordon was his mentor. So once again, they're tying it all back to the old series. Because back in Samurai, the only connection we had to Rangers of old was Bulk and Skull. And Skull didn't have much of an impact to the last episode. So, that really grounds it in that this is really the Power Rangers come back full force. Which is a great thing to me. So overall, this was a freaking great first episode. Much better than both Samurai and Gosager. Gosager was an okay Sentai, but it was pretty bland. In Samurai, it wasn't too special to it, but it had one function, and that was to get kids to start watching Power Rangers again. So there'd be a budget to do something great like this. And for that matter, it succeeded. It excelled at that. So now's the time to make a truly great season of Power Rangers to celebrate the 2 decades it's been around. And so far, this season is off to a great start. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the show. If you feel like discussing it, just leave a comment below what you thought of the episode. And as well as any way I can improve the format of this show. Because I am just starting the first episode of this. Till then, I'm Jargus 0, thank you for watching, and come back next week for the second episode. Until then, everybody.